I like to say workplace equality is the new same-sex marriage, and corporations are becoming the new LGBT rights activists. So stranger things have happened. This brings us to ENDA, the Employment Non-Discrimination Act. First, we have to ask, what is the problem? So this study here, A Broken Bargain, was done by 9 organizations dedicated to LGBT rights, and it just details what LGBT employees continue to face: harassment, unjust firing, lower pay, fewer benefits, unfair tax burden. But you know, it's easy to not see the problem when everything is going so well. What do we hear about in the news almost every week? Another state allows marriage, same-sex marriage. Yay, that's wonderful. We love that. We're at 19 and counting. They're falling like dominoes. Things look great, right? We live in California. We have full protection for LGBT people in the workplace. Thanks to President Obama this week, he's promising an executive order, so all those protections are going to apply to all these federal contractors. So great, but most people don't work for the government, and much of the country's LGBT population doesn't benefit from Title VII protection. So take a look at this map. All right. So here are the 29 states where today you can still be fired just for being gay, lesbian, or bisexual. And I'm going to talk about transgender in a minute. Most Americans don't believe it. You take a poll shows that 76% of Americans think LGBT people already have workplace protection in every state because they're seeing Ellen on TV and all the states you can get married, you know. They don't know this reality. You know, we have and then, you know, last year with the Supreme Court cases that struck down DOMA and Prop 8, those got a lot of news, but people don't dig into the nuance, and, you know, it's not all done yet. So while everyone thinks everything is well, I want to tell you about just last month in Michigan, a city councilwoman in a little town called Saginaw, she dared to propose a local LGBT non-discrimination ordinance. The state doesn't have anything, but she wanted to do something just in the city. That created a firestorm of opposition. This is just last month, with offensive and ridiculous rhetoric. Her fellow council member publicly compared gay rights activists to Nazis. And so last month, and the ordinance went down in flames in Michigan. So no workplace protections for LGBT employees in Michigan in 2014. So notice on the map, you'll see Pennsylvania. Now Pennsylvania is one of the so-called good states. They just allowed same-sex marriage recently. But watch out if your boss objects. In Pennsylvania, you can get married to your same-sex partner and then get fired from your job when you put the wedding picture on your desk. So the question is, do we need workplace protections in places like Michigan and Pennsylvania? Next slide. So these are just some surprising statistics. Only about 1/3 of LGBT employees are out at work throughout the United States. That's a lot of workers in the closet. So they must be afraid for a reason. And a recent study shows that 58% of LGBT employees have heard jokes or derogatory comments about LGBT people at work, and 78% of transgender employees have said they experienced harassment. So now the question is, what if you're transgender? Let's look at that map. So the map increases from 29 to 33 states where you can be fired. We need a national standard, and so that's where ENDA comes in, the Employment Non-Discrimination Act, currently in Congress. So at long last, full protection for all LGBT employees nationwide. Or will it? Next slide. So ENDA has been around a long time. It goes back to 1974, not as ENDA, but originally meant to extend sexual orientation to the protected classes in the 1964 Civil Rights Act. Then in the 1990s, it evolved into workplace employment protections, and it's been introduced since 1994 in every Congress except one, 2005, 2006. So why hasn't it passed in 40 years? It's because we haven't figured out how to solve the inherent tension. How do you craft it so you can get enough politicians to vote for it without watering it down so much that too many LGBT people are left out. Now, back in 2007 and 2009, the uproar was over transgender. Should transgender people even be in ENDA? Some felt there were enough votes to pass it without transgender, and then others thought it's unconscionable to leave out an entire group. So today, thankfully, transgender employees are included, but we have a new debate. Now it's about religious exemption. So as we know, Title VII has a religious exemption when it comes to religions hiring clergy. So that's why the Catholic Church doesn't have to hire women priests. But the religious exemption in ENDA is much broader. So let's go to the next slide. Just some people protesting there. Religious liberty does not equal religious bigotry. So what does ENDA say? ENDA says that religiously affiliated organizations, affiliated organizations, not churches or houses of worship, don't have to hire LGBT people. So this goes beyond a church saying our priest can't be whatever. So this means if you're a university affiliated with a religion, you could fire your gay groundskeeper, and that job has nothing to do with your religious tenets. But this is in ENDA, very broad. So, of course, even with these broad exemptions, a lot of people would be protected. It just wouldn't protect every LGBT person. So there's the conundrum, there's the divide. And we've spent the afternoon talking about and celebrating 50 years of the Civil Rights Act, and the stories we heard remind us that bending moral arcs toward justice is often difficult and messy, and LGBT rights are no different. But we are making progress. So let me show you the last slide. The legal profession is very important. Activism, organized activism is very important. But we should just take a moment to celebrate the singular acts that we do as regular people in our everyday lives. This is a picture from something called the Frame Your Love campaign. So last month, there was a Frame Your Love Day in Dallas, Texas. Texas being the state on all the wrong maps when it comes to LGBT rights. Yet, people had the courage to put a framed picture of their same-sex partner on their desk, just like every straight coworker puts a picture of their loved ones on their desks. Now, I'm personally moved by this because before there was a name for it, before there was a day for it, that's how I came out. I decided to come out at work by pinning a little picture of my boyfriend on my cubicle wall. And I was 24 years old. It was 1997. Ellen had just come out, and so I decided I must too. So sometimes the path to equality is not what we expect. Now remember the story I told you about Michigan, where the town voted down the local LGBT ordinance? So it turns out that town, Saginaw, the world headquarters of the Dow Chemical Company is just next door, right in their backyard. Now Dow Chemical offers full LGBT workplace equality to all its employees. So it was embarrassing to Dow that their city, their state, sanctions discrimination. So Dow got together with other Michigan-based corporations like Whirlpool, they do the washers and dryers, and they created a coalition of businesses to pressure lawmakers to add LGBT people to the state's Civil Rights Act. Just get it done. Now these are old school businesses, Dow Chemical, Whirlpool, and they're taking the lead on LGBT rights. Who would have thought? The reason is they realize that discrimination is bad for business. But still, they're doing it. You might remember earlier this year, there were anti-gay laws proposed in Georgia and Arizona. These are the really ugly laws that said, you could deny service to gay people if it was against your religion. It was corporations like Coca-Cola, UPS, Marriott. They're the ones who stepped up to block those laws from happening. So it's interesting. So what happens in Michigan, if these companies can come together and take Michigan off the list of 29 states that discriminate, that could be a template for the remaining 28 while we continue to debate ENDA. So I like to say workplace equality is the new same-sex marriage, and corporations are becoming the new LGBT rights activists. So stranger things have happened. So thank you.